The massive doors of the throne room opened with a deep rumble. Admiral Lee Taemin walked forward, his black uniform pressed and clean. Behind him came two other humans, Park Soo-jin, a woman with short hair and serious eyes, and Kim Do-hyun, a tall man carrying a silver briefcase. The throne room was bigger than anything on Earth. The ceiling went up so high that clouds formed near the top. Massive pillars made of some kind of glowing crystal held up the roof. Strange alien creatures stood along the walls, all different shapes and sizes. Some had too many arms, others had no arms at all. Some floated in the air, others crawled on many legs. But all eyes were on the throne at the far end of the room. Empress Vexara sat on a chair made of pure light. She was tall, maybe 3 meters high, and her body was made of living crystal. The crystal was clear like glass but had colors moving inside it, blues and purples and greens that shifted and changed. She had 4 eyes, 2 where a human would have them and 2 more on the sides of her head. All 4 eyes glowed with white light. The 3 humans walked down the long path toward the throne. Their footsteps echoed in the huge room. Lee Taemin kept his face calm, but inside he was counting. He saw at least 50 different alien species watching them. Each one looked down at the humans like they were looking at insects. When they reached the throne, Lee Taemin stopped and gave a small bow. Not too deep. He represented all of humanity and would not grovel. But deep enough to show respect, Your Imperial Majesty, he said in a clear voice. I am Admiral Lee Taemin of the United Earth Defense Force. These are my companions, Diplomat Park Soo-jin and Technology Advisor Kim Do-hyun. We come in peace, seeking dialogue between our species and your great empire. Empress Vexara leaned forward on her throne. The crystals in her body began to glow brighter. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with the sound of breaking glass. So, she said, these are the humans we have heard whispers about. The new species that thinks it belongs among the stars. Lee Taemin nodded. We have recently developed faster-than-light travel. We seek only peaceful contact and the chance to learn from the great civilizations of the galaxy. Park Soo-jin stepped forward and opened a small device. A hologram appeared showing Earth. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. This is our homeworld, she said. We are a young species, but we have much to offer. Our mathematics, our art, our music. We would be honored to share our culture with the Dominion. Kim Do-hyun opened his briefcase and pulled out several items. A small computer tablet, a music player, and a book. These represent some of our achievements. We hope they might interest Your Majesty. The Empress looked at the items for a moment. Then something strange happened. Her crystal body began to shake. At first, Lee Taemin thought she might be angry. But then he realized what was happening. She was laughing. The sound filled the huge throne room. It was like 1,000 pieces of glass breaking at the same time. The other aliens in the room began to make their own sounds. Clicks and whistles and roars that must have been laughter in their languages. You hairless apes think you belong among the stars? Vexara said between laughs. You think your primitive toys impress us? She stood up from her throne. Even at a distance, she towered over the humans. Do you know how many worlds the Dominion controls? She asked. Over 10,000. Do you know how many species kneel before this throne? More than your small minds could count. She gestured with one long crystal arm toward the aliens along the walls. Each of these species commands fleets that could turn your little blue world into space dust. And they all serve me. They all learned that resistance is pointless. The Empress began to walk down the steps from her throne. Each step made a ringing sound like a bell. Your entire species could not field more than a handful of crude vessels, she continued. I have seen the reports. A few dozen ships at most, probably held together with primitive metals and desperation. She stopped just a few meters from the humans. This close, Lee Taemin could see his reflection in her crystal skin, broken into 1,000 pieces. We have fleets that darken solar systems, Vexara said. We have weapons that can crack planets in half. We have conquered species so advanced that they had already mapped half the galaxy before your ancestors learned to make fire. Park Soo-jin tried to speak. Your Majesty, if you would just consider... Consider what? The Empress cut her off. That cosmic insects deserve a place at the table with gods? She laughed again, and this time the sound was cruel. I will tell you what I consider, she said. I consider you lucky that I find your ignorance amusing rather than insulting. Another species might have already reduced your world to atoms for your presumption. Kim Do-hyun's hands tightened on his briefcase, but he said nothing. But I am feeling generous today, Vexara continued. So I will give you a gift. I will give you time to run. She walked back toward her throne, her crystal body catching and reflecting the strange lights of the room. You have 72 of your Earth hours to leave Dominion space, she said without turning around. Take your little ships and fly back to your little world. Hide in your little solar system and pray we never notice you again. She sat back down on her throne of light. Because if I see humans in my space after that time, I will remind the galaxy why 10,000 worlds kneel before me. I will swat you from existence like the cosmic insects you are. The laughter of the aliens echoed through the throne room again. Lee Taman looked around at all the watching faces, or what passed for faces. Some had expressions he could read, others were completely alien. But all of them looked at the humans with the same emotion. Contempt. You are dismissed, Empress Vexara said. Crawl back to your hole and be grateful for my mercy. Lee Taman gave another small bow. Thank you for your time, Your Majesty. The three humans turned and walked back down the long path toward the doors. Behind them, the laughter continued. Lee Taman kept his face calm and his steps steady. Park Soo-jin walked with her head held high. Kim Do-hyun clutched his briefcase and said nothing. They did not run. They did not hurry. They walked like humans who had dignity, even in the face of mockery. But as the massive doors closed behind them, Lee Taman allowed himself a small smile. If only she knew what was waiting in the darkness between the stars. The elevator descended deep underground beneath the city of Seoul. Lee Tae-min, Park Soo-jin, and Kim Do-hyun stood in silence as the numbers on the display went down past the subway levels, past the parking garages, past the maintenance tunnels, down to levels that did not appear on any public map. Finally, the doors opened to reveal a corridor lined with thick metal walls. Guards in black uniforms checked their identification cards before letting them pass. At the end of the corridor was another door, this one requiring hand scans, eye scans, and voice recognition. The door opened to reveal the true heart of Earth's government. The command center was enormous. Carved out of solid rock deep beneath the city, dozens of people worked at computer stations. Giant screens on the wall showed maps of space, ship positions, and streams of data in languages both human and alien. President Yoon Hae-ri stood at the center of it all. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone in the room moved when she spoke. Next to her stood Fleet Admiral Kang Jun-woo, a man with scars on his face and hands that spoke of old battles. Report, President Yoon said as the three walked up to her. Lee Tae-min's face was grim. She laughed at us, called us cosmic insects, said our entire fleet was just a handful of crude vessels that could not challenge even her weakest servants. Did she threaten us? Admiral Kang asked. 72 hours to leave Dominion space, Park Soo-jin replied. Or she will, quote, swat us from existence. President Yoon nodded slowly. Good. That is exactly what we wanted her to think. She turned to face one of the large screens. On it was a map of local space showing hundreds of red dots, Dominion ships and bases. Dr. Lim, she called out. Status report. A thin man with thick glasses looked up from his computer station. Dr. Lim Young-soo was the head of the Deep Space Monitoring Division. Though most people on Earth did not know such a division existed. All monitoring stations report normal activity, Madam President, he said. The Dominion has no idea what is really happening. He pressed a button and the screen changed. Now it showed Earth's solar system. But this was not the solar system that appeared in school books. This version was filled with structures, space stations, shipyards, and defensive platforms that orbited in the shadows where alien sensors could not detect them. She does not know, Dr. Lim said quietly. None of them know. Admiral Kang walked over to join the president in front of the screen. Tell them, Doctor. Tell them the truth. Dr. Lim cleared his throat. The entire command center grew quiet. 53 years ago, he began, our deep space radio telescopes detected artificial signals from beyond our solar system. We had found proof that we were not alone in the universe. The screen changed again, showing a timeline with dates and events. Most people think that first contact happened last year when the Dominion found us. But the truth is we found them first. We found them decades ago. Park Soo-jin looked confused. But why did we not announce it? Why did we not try to contact them? Because we were smart enough to listen first, President Yoon said. We spent years decoding their communications. We learned their languages. We watched their wars. We studied their technology and their tactics. The screen now showed images of alien battles, massive fleets destroying each other in the darkness of space. What we saw terrified us, Dr. Lim continued. The galaxy was not a peaceful place. It was ruled by empires that conquered and enslaved. The Dominion was the worst of them all. So we made a choice, Admiral Kang said. Instead of announcing ourselves, we hid. We went dark. We stopped all radio transmissions that might leak into space. We moved all our military installations to the far side of planets and moons where they could not be seen. And we began to build. President Yoon added. The screen changed to show construction happening in space. Huge shipyards hidden in asteroid fields. Manufacturing plants built inside hollow moons. Fleet bases constructed in the dark between planets. For 50 years we have been preparing for this day, she said. We built our fleet based on everything we learned about Dominion technology. Every weakness, every flaw, every tactical mistake we saw them make. Kim Do-hyun spoke for the first time since entering the room. The briefcase. The items I showed the Empress. Were they really examples of our technology? Dr. Lim smiled. Those were toys. The computer tablet was actually running on technology 50 years old. We made sure to show them exactly what we wanted them to see, a primitive species that had just learned to leave its home planet. Meanwhile, Admiral Kang said, Captain Nam Subin has been mapping their positions. Another person stepped forward. Captain Nam Subin was a woman with short black hair and the steady eyes of someone who had spent years in the dark between stars. The stealth ship Silent Thunder has been operating in Dominion space for 7 years, she said. We have complete maps of their fleet positions, their supply lines, and their communication networks. They still do not know we exist, she added with a slight smile. President Yoon walked over to a communications console. The time for hiding is over. Admiral Kang, send the signal. Admiral Kang nodded and picked up a secure communication device. All stations, this is Fleet Admiral Kang. Authorization code Red Dawn 77 Alpha. Begin Operation Sunrise. Across the command center, people began working frantically at their stations. The large screen started showing new information, ship movements, activation sequences, and countdown timers. What happens now? Lee Taemin asked. President Yoon smiled. And for the first time since they had returned from the Dominion throne world, she looked happy. Now the Empress learns why she should not have laughed at humanity. On the screens around them, ships began to move. Not dozens of ships, not hundreds of ships, thousands of ships all hidden in the dark places of the solar system, all equipped with technology that the Dominion had never seen before. How long before they arrive? Admiral Kang asked. Captain Nam looked at her datapad. The Dominion Third Fleet will reach Earth in 18 hours. Our response fleet will be in position in 12. Good, President Yoon said. Make sure every ship is ready. This is not just about defending Earth. This is about showing the galaxy that humanity will not kneel. She turned to face the three who had just returned from meeting the Empress. You did well, she said. You played your parts perfectly. The Empress thinks we are weak insects she can crush without effort. But we are not insects, Admiral Kang added. We are humans, and humans do not give up. We plan, we prepare, we build. And when someone threatens our home, we show them exactly why that was a mistake. The countdown timers on the screens continued to tick down. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity. The Empress had 72 hours to leave them alone. She was going to get much less than that. The hidden shipyards around Titan were buzzing with activity. For 50 years, these massive construction facilities had been built inside hollowed-out asteroids and hidden behind the giant moon. Now, for the first time, they were opening their doors to reveal what humanity had really been building. Admiral Oh Kyung-soo stood on the command deck of Titan Station, watching through reinforced windows as the final preparations took place. Below him, in the vast construction bay, the supercarrier Indomitable Spirit was being loaded with its final supplies. The ship was enormous, 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Its hull was not the bright white or silver that most people imagine spaceships would be. Instead, it was deep black, designed to blend into the darkness of space. Strange patterns covered its surface, patterns that would confuse enemy sensors and make targeting nearly impossible. Admiral, came a voice behind him. He turned to see Captain Hong Min-ji, the commander of the Indomitable Spirit. She was a tall woman with calm eyes and the steady hands of someone who had trained for this moment her entire life. Captain Hong, Admiral Oh replied. Is your ship ready? All systems are green, sir. Crew is at full readiness. Weapons are loaded and tested. We are ready to show the Dominion what human engineering can accomplish. Admiral O smiled. And Captain An? How is the Iron Phoenix? Captain An reports ready as well, Hong said. All ships in the Prometheus fleet are reporting full readiness. The Prometheus fleet was humanity's secret weapon. 300 supercarriers, each one more advanced than anything the Dominion had ever built. They had been constructed using technology that humanity had developed while studying alien communications for decades. The weapon systems, Admiral O asked. Dr. Shin completed the final test this morning, Hong replied. The Harmony weapons are performing beyond expectations. Far across the solar system, on a research station hidden behind Jupiter, Dr. Shin Woo-jin was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most advanced weapons. The Harmony system was based on a discovery that had taken humanity 20 years to make. The Dominion's energy shields all operated on the same frequency. It was a fatal flaw that the Dominion did not even know they. Hebit, sir, came another voice. Colonel Yang Mi-young walked up to them, her uniform bearing the patches of the Deep Space Intelligence Division. We have intercepted new Dominion communications. What do they say? Admiral O asked. Empress Vexara has ordered the Third Fleet to make an example of humanity. 300 ships under Admiral Gorthmek are moving toward Earth. They expect to arrive in 16 hours. Yang handed him a data pad showing the intercepts. The messages were in the Dominion's military language, but humanity had been studying that language for decades. Listen to this, Yang said, activating an audio recording. Alien voices filled the air, speaking in harsh, grinding tones. This is Admiral Gorthmek to all fleet commanders. We go to crush insects. This will be easy work. The humans have maybe 20 ships total. We will be home before the next sleep cycle. Another voice responded. Admiral, should we prepare for ground assault? No need, came Gorthmek's reply. We will destroy their ships from orbit and then crack their planet. Make it quick and clean. The Empress wants this done as a lesson to other primitive species. The recording ended. Admiral O's face was grim. They think this will be easy, he said. That is what we wanted them to think, Captain Hong replied. They have no idea what they are flying into. Across the solar system, other fleets were making their final preparations. Near Mars, Admiral Baek In-ho was overseeing the first battle group. The massive supercarrier Eternal Vigilance was surrounded by dozens of support ships, all of them invisible to Dominion sensors. All ships report ready, came the voice of his communications officer. The fleet is prepared to move on your order. Admiral Baek nodded. He had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. As a young officer, he had been part of the team that first decoded Dominion military transmissions. He had seen what the Dominion did to species that resisted them. Today, they would learn what happened when they threatened humanity. On the other side of Earth, Admiral Seo Eunjung was making similar preparations with the second battle group. Her flagship, the Starborn Fury, was even larger than the other supercarriers. It carried experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Ma'am, said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Park Hyun-woo, all ships in the second battle group are ready. We are just waiting for the order to move. Good, Admiral Seo replied. Today we find out if 50 years of preparation was enough. Back on Titan Station, Admiral O was receiving reports from across the solar system. Every hidden base, every secret shipyard, every stealth patrol was checking in. The numbers were staggering. Final count, sir, reported Colonel Yang. 312 supercarriers ready for combat. 800 support vessels. 2,000 fighter craft, all equipped with Harmony weapons and quantum communication systems. Admiral O walked back to the window and looked out at the indomitable Spirit. The massive ship was slowly moving out of its construction bay, its engines glowing with blue fire. Around it, dozens of other ships were doing the same. For 50 years, humanity had been the galaxy's best-kept secret. They had watched and learned while building the most advanced fleet in known space. They had studied every battle, analyzed every tactic, and planned for every possible scenario. The Dominion thought they were coming to crush insects. Instead, they were flying into the most sophisticated military trap in galactic history. Send the signal to all fleets, Admiral O ordered. Operation Sunrise is now active. All ships moved to final positions. Across the solar system, hundreds of ships began to move. They stayed in the shadows, behind moons and asteroids, invisible to the sensors of any approaching fleet. But they were moving with purpose, taking positions that had been planned for decades. The Dominion Third Fleet was still 14 hours away. Humanity would be ready. Admiral Gorthmek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion destroyer Void Crusher. Through the huge windows he could see the Third Fleet stretched out before him, 300 ships of various sizes, all bearing the purple and gold colors of the Dominion Empire. It was an impressive sight. Enough firepower to destroy entire star systems, more than enough to deal with whatever primitive vessels the humans might have scraped together. Admiral, called his sensor officer, a thin creature with 6 arms and compound eyes. We are approaching the edge of the human solar system. Excellent, Gorthmek replied. His species, the Korthani, look somewhat like humans except for their gray skin and the extra joints in their arms and legs. Begin scanning for their fleet. Yes, sir. Beginning full spectrum analysis. Gorthmek walked to the center of his bridge where a holographic display showed the solar system ahead of them. A yellow star with several planets orbiting around it. The third planet from the star was blue and green, the human homeworld called Earth. Scan results coming in, Admiral, the sensor officer reported. I am detecting. This is strange. What is strange? Gorthmek demanded. I am not finding any ships, sir. The system appears empty except for some small civilian craft near the inner planets. Gorthmek frowned. Empty? That cannot be right. Scan again. Scanning now, sir. Still showing minimal activity. Perhaps the humans have hidden their fleet behind their planets. Or perhaps they have already run away, laughed Commander Vector, Gorthmek's second in command. Maybe they heard we were coming and decided to flee rather than face us. The other officers on the bridge made sounds that passed for laughter in their various species. The idea that any species would dare to stand against the Dominion seemed ridiculous to them. Continue scanning, Gorthmek ordered. I want to know where they are hiding before we crush them. But even as he gave the order, something was happening that his sensors could not detect. In the shadow of Earth's moon, massive shapes were beginning to move. Ships that had been waiting in darkness for this exact moment. Admiral Bayek Inho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, watching his tactical displays. The Dominion fleet was exactly where Captain Nam's intelligence had predicted they would be. All ships, this is Admiral Beck, he said into his communicator. Enemy fleet has entered the system. Begin Phase 1. Across the solar system, hundreds of ships began to move from their hiding places. They emerged from behind asteroids, from the shadows of moons, and from deep space where they had been waiting like hunters in the dark. The Supercarrier Thunder's Answer, commanded by Captain Quan Tae-yang, was the first to reveal itself. It appeared from behind Mars, its massive bulk suddenly visible to the Dominion sensors. On the Void Crusher, alarms began to sound. Admiral, the sensor officer called out, his 6 arms working frantically at his controls. I am detecting a large ship. It just appeared near the 4th planet. One ship? Gorthmek asked. How large? 3 kilometers long, sir. Much larger than our largest vessels. Gorthmek was not worried. The Dominion had faced large ships before, probably their flagship, targeted for destruction. But before he could give the order to fire, more alarms sounded. Sir, more ships. I am detecting multiple large vessels. The holographic display in front of Gorthmek began to show red dots as his sensors picked up the human fleet. First a dozen ships appeared, then 24, then 50. This cannot be right, Gorthmek muttered. How many ships do they have? The answer came as the human fleet continued to reveal itself. The Prometheus Dawn, commanded by Captain Jeon Sua, appeared from behind Jupiter. The Iron Phoenix moved out from the asteroid belt. The Starborn Fury emerged from the outer solar system. Admiral. The sensor officer's voice was shaking now. I'm counting over 200 ships. No, wait. More are still appearing. Gorthmek stared at the display. The red dots representing human ships kept multiplying. They were not just appearing randomly. They were taking positions around his fleet in a perfect sphere. Impossible, he whispered. Captain Quan Tae-yang opened a communication channel from the Thunder's Answer. His voice reached every ship in the Dominion fleet. Attention, Dominion vessels. This is Captain Quan Tae-yang of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent. This is humanity's response to your Empress's laughter. On his tactical display, Gorthmek could now see the true scope of what they faced. Over 300 human ships, each one larger than anything in his fleet. They had appeared from nowhere, moving with coordination that spoke of careful planning and advanced technology. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the human is still transmitting." "We offer you one chance," Captain Kwan continued. "Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of threatening our home." Gorthmek looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the tactical displays in shock. Some of them were making the signs and gestures their species used when facing something they could not understand. But Gorthmek was a veteran of 100 battles. He had never retreated from anything. "Open a channel," he ordered. The communication screen flickered to life, showing Captain Kwan on his bridge. He was a human male with dark hair and calm eyes. Behind him, Gorthmek could see other humans working at stations filled with technology he did not recognize. "I am Admiral Gorthmek of the Dominion Third Fleet," he said. "You are insects who do not know their place. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Captain Kwan's expression did not change. "We are not insects, Admiral. We are humans, and humans do not surrender to bullies." "Then you will die," Gorthmek replied. "Even if you have more ships than we expected, they are still primitive craft. We are the Dominion. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. And today you learn why you should have left this one alone." The communication ended. Gorthmek turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, open fire. Destroy them all." The Dominion fleet opened fire with everything they had. Beams of energy and missiles flew through space toward the human ships. For a moment, Gorthmek allowed himself to believe that this would end the way all battles ended, with Dominion victory. But then the human ships began to fire back. The weapons that came from the human fleet were unlike anything Gorthmek had ever seen. Instead of the crude energy beams he expected, the humans fired weapons that seemed to bend light itself. The beams struck the Dominion ships and passed right through their shields as if the shields were not even there. "Shields are failing," his defense officer called out. "The weapons are penetrating our defenses." "How is that possible?" "I do not know, sir. They are using some kind of frequency that bypasses our shield harmonics." Around them, other Dominion ships were suffering the same fate. Ships that had conquered star systems were being disabled by weapons they could not defend against. But the humans were not trying to destroy the Dominion fleet. Their weapons were precise, targeting engines and weapon systems but leaving life support intact. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting boarding craft. The humans are launching small ships toward our vessels." Gorthmek watched in amazement as human ships attached themselves to Dominion vessels. Within minutes, reports began coming in from across the fleet. "Admiral, this is the destroyer Swift Death. We are being boarded." "The humans are inside our ship." "Admiral, the cruiser Dark Victory reports that their command deck has been captured." "Sir, human boarding parties have taken control of 15 ships and counting." Gorthmek realized that this was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The humans were showing the Dominion exactly how outmatched they were. His own ship shuddered as something attached to the hull. "Sir," his security chief reported, "we have boarders. They are moving through the ship faster than we can respond." Within an hour, the entire Dominion Third Fleet had been either captured or disabled. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. Gorthmek found himself sitting in his own command chair, but now there were humans on his bridge. The leader of the boarding party was a young human female who had moved through his ship like a ghost. "Admiral Gorthmek," she said in perfect Korthani, "I am Commander Park Hyun-woo of the Earth Defense Force. You are now our prisoner." "Impossible," Gorthmek muttered. "This is impossible." "Your Empress thought the same thing about our existence," Commander Park replied. "Today the galaxy learns that both of you were wrong." The communication reached Empress Vexara while she was in her private chambers, reviewing reports from across her empire. The crystal walls of her room were dark, reflecting her mood as she handled the endless details of ruling 10,000 worlds. Her communication device began to flash with urgent signals. She activated it with an irritated gesture, expecting routine reports from her military commanders. Instead, she found herself looking at Admiral Gorthmek. But something was wrong. He was sitting in what appeared to be his command chair, but there were strange figures behind him, creatures she had never seen before wearing black uniforms. "Admiral Gorthmek," she said, her crystal body beginning to glow with anger. "Why are you contacting me? You should be destroying the human homeworld by now." Gorthmek's face was gray with shock. "Your Majesty, The fleet has been defeated. For a moment, Vexara did not understand the words. Defeated by whom? What other fleet has entered the system? By the humans, Your Majesty. The Empress stared at the screen. Her 4 eyes focused on Gorthmek's face, looking for signs that this was some kind of joke or mistake. That is impossible, she said slowly. The humans have a handful of primitive vessels. Your fleet has 300 advanced warships. Your Majesty, Gorthmek said, his voice shaking. They have over 300 ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything in our fleet. They defeated us in less than 6 hours. One of the black uniformed figures stepped forward. It was a human female with short dark hair and calm eyes. Your Imperial Majesty, the human said in perfect Dominion language. I am Commander Park Hyunwoo of the United Earth Defense Force. Admiral Gorthmek is our prisoner, along with his entire fleet. Vexara's crystal body began to flash with angry colors, reds and oranges that lit up her chamber like fire. You dare speak to me, insect? Release my admiral immediately. I am afraid that will not be possible, Commander Park replied. The admiral and his fleet attacked our solar system with intent to destroy our homeworld. They are now prisoners of war. There is no war, Vexara shrieked. There cannot be a war. You are primitives. You have no fleet. Commander Park stepped aside, and the screen changed to show a view from outside the captured Dominion ship. Vexara found herself looking at a sight that made no sense to her. Hundreds of massive ships surrounded the remnants of Gorthmek's fleet. Ships that were larger and more advanced than anything she had ever seen. Their design was alien to her. Not the curved organic shapes favored by most species, but angular and efficient, covered in strange patterns that hurt her eyes to look at. These are just some of our vessels, Commander Park said. We have many more. Impossible, Vexara whispered. We would have detected such a fleet. Our intelligence networks cover the entire galaxy. Your intelligence networks see what we allow them to see, the human replied. We have been watching the Dominion for over 50 years. We know your ship designs, your tactics, your weaknesses. We have been preparing for this day since before your current fleet was built. The screen changed again, this time showing views from multiple human ships. Vexara could see Dominion vessels being towed by human ships, their crews captured, their weapons disabled. How? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. We are humans, Commander Park said simply. We do not give up. When we learned that the galaxy was ruled by empires that conquered and enslaved, we chose to prepare rather than submit. The Empress tried to process what she was seeing. Her empire was built on the idea that the Dominion was the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Every species that had challenged them had been crushed. What do you want? She asked finally. We want peace, Commander Park replied, but we will settle for respect. Another voice came from off-screen. Captain Lee So-young stepped into view, her uniform bearing the insignia of a ship commander. Your Majesty, Captain Lee said, my ship is transmitting a message to your homeworld. Would you like to hear it? Before Vexara could answer, another screen appeared showing a different human. This one was an older woman with gray hair and the bearing of someone used to command. Empress Vexara, the woman said. I am President Yoon Hai-ri of the United Earth Government. I am sending this message to inform you that your third fleet has been defeated and captured. Vexara's chamber filled with light as her crystal body flashed with rage and fear. This is not a declaration of war, President Yoon continued. This is a declaration of existence. Humanity will no longer hide in the shadows. We will take our place among the galactic community, and we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Your admiral and his fleet will be returned to you unharmed, as a gesture of goodwill. But know this, if you threaten any peaceful species again, you will face the full might of the human fleet. The message ended. Vexara found herself staring at Commander Park again. This cannot be happening, she said. The Dominion has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. And now the galaxy has new protectors, Commander Park replied. We do not seek to rule. We seek to ensure that no species suffers under the boot of an empire that sees other beings as insects. The communication screen flickered, and suddenly Vexara was looking at views from across her empire. Human ships had appeared in dozens of star systems. Not attacking, not conquering, but simply present, watching. On Corval Prime, 3 human ships hung in orbit, their weapons trained on the Dominion fleet that had been preparing to attack a peaceful trading world. On Sextera 7, human vessels had disabled an entire Dominion task force that had been sent to suppress a rebellion. In the outer spiral, human ships were escorting refugee convoys that the Dominion had been hunting. "How many ships do you have?" Vexera asked in a hollow voice. "Enough," Commander Park replied. "Enough to make sure that your empire learns to coexist rather than conquer." The Empress looked around her chamber. For the first time in centuries, she felt small. Her empire, which had seemed invincible just hours ago, was suddenly facing an enemy they had never even known existed. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you choose," President Yoon's voice came through the communicator again. "You can continue to rule through fear and oppression and face humanity's response, or you can learn to share the galaxy with those you once considered insects." "We are not going away," Commander Park added. "We are here now. The galaxy has changed, Your Majesty. The question is whether you will change with it." The communication ended, leaving Vexara alone in her chamber. Around her, the crystal walls reflected her image thousands of times. A powerful empress who had just learned that power was not the same as strength. In the space around Earth, Admiral Gorthmek was being prepared for transport back to the Dominion. His ships had been repaired and refueled by human engineers, their crews treated with respect despite being prisoners. As his ship prepared to leave the human solar system, Gorthmek found himself standing at a window looking out at the human fleet. Hundreds of massive ships, each one a testament to 50 years of careful planning and preparation. "Commander Park," he said to his human guard, "may I ask you something?" "Of course, Admiral. Why did you not destroy us? You clearly had the capability." Commander Park was quiet for a moment. "Because we are not like your empire, Admiral. We do not destroy when we can disable. We do not kill when we can capture. We are humans, and humans believe that even enemies can become friends. But if we return with hostile intent, then you will discover what happens when humans are forced to fight for real," she replied. "Today was a demonstration, Admiral. A warning. Pray that your Empress heeds it." As the Dominion ships left the solar system, they carried with them news that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had revealed itself at last,